If you could do any dream brand deal right now, what would it be?
You might have to close your ears for this one, Katie. Is that okay?
Oh no, I'm scared.
Just for like
Trust
5
me,
seconds, just
Katie
5
doesn't need to
seconds.
close her ears.
All right, just it's. I want to deal with. Come on now.
That is the best answer we've ever gotten.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another episode of the Bot Lobby Podcast. I'm GOJJ. I've got Katie in the booth with me as always, and we're super excited to bring on another amazing guest as we do. Katie, we have an incredible long kind of string of guests that we've had into the podcast, all competitors for the most part, and all ridiculously talented. However, this one's maybe a bit different because our guest today has really made a name for himself in Caldera in particular, which is probably the only guest that we could say that is the case.
Right, and isn't afraid to let people know that as well. Someone who ties into our last couple guests very effectively, both with Rated and then Jukies, who we both talked with about this guest, and now he himself is here after an incredible day yesterday.
Right,
so,
yeah.
Ghost, I think we should probably get him in here, right?
Yeah, let's get him in here. But before we bring him in, okay, we got to give him a little bit of extra gas and a little extra setup because here's the thing. We're recording this on a Friday. If you guys are watching it live, thank you for being here. And if you're watching it on a VOD, the time of recording is Friday. It's the day after the World Series of Warzone North American qualifiers. You might be a year down the road listening back on this and be like, I already know who won, and it might be this guest. Who knows? But he did just win the North American qualifiers. To make it to the finals, he just had to get top 20. Well, no, they dropped the biggest game of not only the day, but also the biggest game of the entire tournament from EU to NA with a 56-pointer. It was stupid. It was insane to take the win. So now let's bring him in with all of that context. We've got our good friend Hisoka himself in the booth. Hisoka, how we doing, brother?
Yo, what's good? I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
We are
good to have you on.
Yeah, we are doing fantastic, and we really appreciate you kind of hopping in last second here because you just won the tournament yesterday. We're gonna get into that, but can you just give me a brief statement on how it feels to walk out with a W in the quals? A dynamic win, by the way, with over like 160 points.
I mean, I just wanted to show everyone we don't belong in there. You know what I mean? I just want to show pure domination. You know what I mean? I wanted to invite. I didn't get it, so I was like, okay, we got to get it out of the mud and the trenches. So let's put on a show.
I love that. Well, we do this often with our guests. We have these kind of rapid fire questions to start it off, break the ice a little bit. So it could be the first answer that comes to mind when we ask these questions. It doesn't have to be the best answer, and you might regret some of your answers later, but it's fine. So I'll start it off. Katie and I will bounce off of each other and just keep it about one sentence or so. All right. First question. Who is your favorite person to stream with and your favorite person to compete with?
Skullface40. Wait, is that two separate questions or just one person?
It could be the same person or it could be different.
I say Skullface. I love competing with and streaming with, but then like in the 2v2 side, I love playing with Shifty, the bandit. You know what I mean? It's just so easy.
The cash bandit himself. I love it.
No, I like it. I like it. All right, favorite streaming moment.
I would say back in Verdansk when I was wearing a hot dog wiener costume for Halloween, like a couple days before Halloween, and Aiden raided me. That was my first raid from like a big streamer, so that was crazy.
Yeah, that's gotta feel good, especially when you're like on the come up, right? And then all of a sudden, like I don't know how many thousands of people popped in.
People come into your channel.
Yeah, something stupid. That's awesome. Okay, favorite meta of all time. This is hotly debated.
I would say for me, probably XM4 and Owen gun, the rapid fire barrel.
Yeah,
Ooh.
we have never heard that one. That's a great one. I love that.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, that's actually great. Okay, favorite competitive moment.
Favorite competitive moment was probably winning the 20K recently with Stu, because we put on a showcase for like the underdogs, basically.
You did, and we were lucky enough to get to cast the whole thing. I don't think that's a win that we are going to forget, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun to watch. Favorite Warzone competitive format?
2v2 for sure. It just everyone at home watching is just so much things going on. So
yeah,
good to watch.
It's a good viewer experience as well as a competitive experience. I feel that.
Least favorite duo to compete against?
Wow, this is a good one, but I'd say the scariest duo for me is probably Liam Beams and Eno 30MG. Like They're CMG Reapers. Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, almost everyone says Tommy and Almond, and
Yeah.
you just hit us with like
A curveball.
yeah.
So I know both of them because they competed in the qualifiers, right? On separate teams. But the boys, Liam Beams, I mean they were top 10 at the least. I think they got like 7th or 6th or something overall in the World Series of Warzone quals. They did fantastic.
Yes, sir.
And I think Eno also qualled with he was playing with FaZe Blue, right?
FaZe Blue 11.
Yeah,
Yep.
The CMG Reapers. Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
Shout out the boys. Okay, hardest loss that you can remember in comp.
I'd say the 50K duo, 50K with Mayalpo.
Oh,
when we had to play like 5 EU maps in finals, so that was probably my hardest.
That was a battle.
Yeah.
All right. If you could do any dream brand deal right now, what would it be?
You might have to close your ears for this one, Katie. Is that okay? Is that cool? Really quick.
Oh no, I'm scared.
Is that just for like
Trust
5
me,
seconds? Just
Katie
5
doesn't need to
seconds.
close her ears. You just say
sure?
it. Yeah, she's good.
All right, just it's Viagra. I want to deal with Viagra. You know what I mean? Come on now. Come on.
Yes!
Okay.
That is the best answer we've ever gotten. That is the best.
Code Soka in the shop, 20% off. You know the vibes. Come on now.
Is your like casual audience like age 70
Oh
and
my
above?
God.
Like I don't know what's going on.
Hey, look, sometimes you need a little pep in your step, all right? Don't judge, coach.
That is wild behavior. Well, that's a great launching pad, Hisoka, into kind of the rest of the story here today. Got a lot we want to talk about with the World Series of Warzone. I had the pleasure of casting over you guys. It was us talking about the top 20 teams moving on, so we couldn't hang out on your perspective the entire tournament, but we did get a chance to see a lot of the big matches and what you're able to do. But before we get there is this this tagline that kind of comes with Hisoka from behind the scenes, from production teams and casters and even players that I talked to about you. It's about your come up in Caldera. Like, you are the Caldera Reaper when it comes to tournaments. I don't know if you know this, but in terms of just general events placed in Caldera, besides Almond, you are at the very top. And to be honest, if you start including some of those other tournaments I've probably missed that are like $900 tourneys and all the stuff that you're grinding, you have more podium finishes in Caldera than anyone, period, because you're constantly on the grind. But I was looking back at my stat sheet that I had prepared for World Series of Warzone, and even the team that you put together for this quals was ridiculous. You guys on paper that I had 98 Caldera podium finishes together as a trio. Combined with some of the small ones I don't have, you're over 100. The second highest was Kami, which is 4NJ's Brolic and Exact, at 58. You have almost double the combined Caldera podiums as the second highest team. And then when it comes to Caldera customs, you guys combined had over 40. The second highest, Kami again, 17. Like, it wasn't even close. Like, you have been tearing Caldera up. Top 10 earner. Like, everybody knows your name at this point, right? And so talk to me about your come up in Call of Duty. Like, where did you start? And then we'll get into Caldera in a moment, but bring me all the way back to the beginning. What was the start for Hisoka?
I'd say around I was 5-6 years old, right? I didn't even play video games. I mean, like, my family was into video games, my mom and dad. And my first Call of Duty was World at War. I know it sounds old school, but...
Bro, I'm 28 years old. What are you talking about?
This
is going way back. We're like, we were there.
Yeah. So like MB40 Juggernaut, that was my thing back in the days. And then my favorite was MW2. But I was always a casual player. Like, I played every Call of Duty leading up to like Warzone. But I've always been doing sports my whole life. So then, like 2 years ago, COVID hit at the time, and I had more time to play video games. And I decided to take a risk on myself, just gamble and try this gaming stuff out, try the streaming stuff out. Because, where I'm from, like, a ticket out is literally sports. In the Polynesian culture, like, sports is a ticket to further education and above and beyond. But I wanted to take a chance with myself and try something else.
That is a great start to this story. Talk to me about the sports you were playing, like when you were growing up. What was it kind of sports that your family had some background in? Was it sports you just found success with? Like, what were you starting in traditional sports and then going into esports?
Football. I
Yeah.
played football my whole career. Like, you know, my family, my dad, my brothers, cousins, everybody, Polynesian culture, we all play football, and we're pretty good at it. Cause I mean, we're only trained to know like that's you know what I mean. We're big motherfuckers. You know what I mean? So
Sure, sure.
like, so yeah. I mean, but then I just you know I have never seen a Polynesian like gamer that was you know really took that risk, and I wanted to you know break the culture. So that's pretty much it.
We get so many similar stories, Goats, that we've heard of that transition from sports into esports
right.
or into streaming full time. We heard it similarly with Super Evan as well. But something that seems like it might be a little different on your end is that family support, because oftentimes families are like, what are you doing? What is this? I don't understand. I'm not comfortable with it. And then eventually they're all in. But we see your mom in chat. I think you mentioned it earlier, but how was family support when you took this leap, when you say how much of your culture is around athletics, to decide to go into Warzone?
Well, off rip, because I'm gonna be honest, I was in I just graduated high school, and I was in college at the time, and I literally had my FAFSA money, right? They gave me two grand, right? And you know you're supposed to spend on books or whatever you need for college, right? But I told my mom, I was like, look, mom, you know I want to take a risk. I want to play Call of Duty, like I want to do the streaming stuff, and she was down for it off rip, right?
Really?
That's
She
awesome.
was down for it, and then but then my dad was like, "Oh hell no, what you talking about, son?" And he's a big motherfucker, you know what I mean? I'm like, I can't say no to pops. My mom talked him into it, and I spent my 2 grand I got from FAFSA on my first PC, and you know now I'm here.
Yeah, you wrote it out from there. I mean, you've earned like over $50,000 in Warzone in its entirety, and probably even more than that when you start calculating all the low CMGs and all the things you grind. But you know, it's a funny conversation too, because when we start looking at family support, when I think of the word family support in esports, I actually think of you. I remember so distinctly you winning. I think it might have been the Chain Games tournament that you guys placed in. I don't remember which tournament it was, but I remember so distinctly at the end of the tournament, you won the event. It was like a big moment. Your whole family was behind you. They had the party poppers. They had everything. You guys were going crazy. And I think it was the Chain Games one.
It was.
And it was just like, talk to me about that support. Like you kind of grinded, and we skip part of the story there, but you start finding success, especially more recently. Like what does that feel like? Like how did the family kind of come around you and show you that support besides the party poppers, everything like that?
I mean, it's been a long time coming. I went from playing like dollar CMGs to finally getting more opportunities in Caldera, and then finding in like first place finishes in big tournaments against TB, Joel, and all the good teams, Breadman, all of them. You know what I mean? It felt really good because it feels like I could compete at these high level, and my family's been behind my back since the dollar CMGs to now.
Well, you talk about those opportunities, and it was that transition point between those dollar CMGs to what you're talking about of taking out the best of the best, you know, winning that 20K with Stu, however long ago. What was it like in that moment where you really started to move away from the dollar CMGs into actually getting those bigger opportunities and breaking into the scene and essentially going from an unknown entity to, if you pay attention to competitive Warzone, really a household name? Everyone's going to be familiar with you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that, because I feel like my come up was so fast that I got a lot of accusations. You know what I mean? Like they almost blacklisted me, and it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that. Like I got a one in a lifetime opportunity from Jukies. I love that dude to death. Like that guy right there gave me an opportunity where I could show myself on LAN that I'm not hacking. So
yeah, that was where I was going next. It's a perfect transition. When you have such a quick come up, specifically on this map, right? You just start obliterating people out of nowhere and just running tournaments. Very quickly, as always, the cheating accusations come, and I know that had been difficult. We've seen other people struggle with it, and then Jukies comes in and kind of says, no, I like this guy, A. B, he's dang good, and I want to make sure he's got the opportunity. So give me a little bit more background on that. So what was your mentality when the cheating accusations were coming? Like, what did you try to do to kind of prove them wrong? When did Jukies come into that conversation? I know it was fairly quick, so that he was able to kind of like sweep you under his wing, but give me a little bit more behind the scenes thoughts.
It was the beginning of Caldera, and I was playing with Shifty at the time. They blacklisted Shifty at that time, and then they came
Yeah.
for me next. And you know, like when a lot of people like, you know, bash your hard work, because I've been grinding since Verdansk, and when they bash my name and just talk shit about me like in their streams or on Twitter, it's hard. Like I just want to fight back and yell at them and shit, but I can't do nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just kept my head down, kept grinding, and I got the opportunity from Juki's, and you know, I took it and ran with it. So that's pretty much it.
I mean, I can understand so much, GOJJ, now why Juki's offered that advice to upcoming streamers on the last podcast, saying stay humble, keep your head down, don't be barking at people when you don't need to. And that's, I can get it, right? Why he took that risk on you, because you are echoing those exact same sentiments that he had for us. But I want to touch on the Shifty portion, because you weren't first. Your accusations came after Shifty, but it feels like only until now Shifty's really kind of been able to get back into things. He plays with Rated and so on and so forth. Were you able to help in that situation? Were you able to offer advice there? What was that like behind the scenes to try and kind of get him back to where he is now?
I mean, so when he first got blacklisted, right, I was trying to tell everyone he wasn't cheating. He's not cheating, right? And everyone was bashing my name, defending him. But at that time, I didn't, like, even now, I don't even have the platform. Like, I'm not at that pro level status to, like, defend his name and no one can say nothing to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I say something, we're going down together. Like, what? Like, they try to bash my name too. So, like, it was kind of hard for me to defend my boy. Like, you know, I got a lot of backlash for that.
Yeah.
But to this day, I still defend him. He's not cheating.
Yeah, and luckily or skillfully or a little bit of combination of the two, it is good to see that he's kind of back into the action here, regardless of what anybody thinks about him. Like he's able to play in tourneys again. But yeah, I can only imagine that was so difficult because like he was your boy. You guys grinded together. You won a lot of tourneys together, and you kind of came up together. He took the fall hard, and you were able to kind of deflect out, and Juki's helped you with that. But let's continue to move forward. I mean, you're starting to grind. You're starting to win tournaments. Juki's takes you under the wing. Talk to me about the land. I mean, it was super cool, right? It was the Red Bull one, right? Yeah. Talk to me about that. What was that like meeting Juki's in person? How did that all go down? Like, what was the event like?
I mean, wow, let me tell you, man. Juki's is way taller than everyone thinks he is. You know what I mean? Let me just start off like that. Wow.
Usually goes the other way.
Yeah, but yeah, Juki's, man, great guy. How he is on stream, he's the same way in person, you know, just even like kinder. But wow, that LAN experience was so fun. Like, you know, everything was paid for, the hotel rooms, food, and everything. And like Juki's took great care of me, him and his Red Bull crew. But I'm talking about like, you guys don't see behind the scenes. Like, I know, like at that LAN event, I was literally playing like my COD career is on the line because everyone's watching that. Like, is this guy really hacking? But you know, me and Juki took the edge off. He told me to take the edge off, and we literally, like, I'm not even gonna like lie to you. Like, this is like inside scoop right here.
Okay.
We literally were getting drunk before the wagers. Like, come on, come on, and we still show it out. Like, come on now.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, you know, nerves are high. Let's take a little edge off, and then let's hop in and fry out. I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of liquid courage in order to lock in. You're 25, right? Yeah, I think you're 25. I think that was our
25.
conversation.
I'm 25. Yeah.
No, you did play well, and there were a lot of people that were watching that because the things happened with Shifty. And to Shifty's credit, you know, it was a terrible situation, and he had to go play on land in some, you know, crazy circumstance against Scummin and all this crazy crap.
Yeah.
And you kind of did it in a way that, you know, Juki's obviously provided and Red Bull provided, but it was a much more kind of controlled setting that was like, hey, this is a competitive scene. Go do this. Go have some fun. And you're able to do that and succeed in that rather than this weird showcase that happened with Shift. And you did great. You did fantastic. And I think that was the moment where people were like, okay, Juki's is vouching for him. Juki's is seeing him play on LAN. We're watching him in LAN. He's able to put the numbers up. Let's back off. Because it really was like post LAN. Like, was there still a bunch of accusations piling on, or was like, hey, that was the cutoff, and then I haven't heard anything since?
I mean, that was the cutoff, really. And a lot of people that accuse me, a lot of them hit me on the side, and they apologize to me, which I respect. You know what I mean? That takes a lot of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, I respect them for that. So like, as long as like no one accuses me anymore and like doesn't like disrespect my grind, and that's fine with me.
Yeah, it takes a lot in this space. It takes a lot of gumption. I will use that word to admit that you're wrong. Not a lot of people will do that.
Yeah.
So if you're getting DMs about that, then you certainly kind of prove your merit. Because I haven't seen post-LAN, I have not seen a single public accusation against you, which is honestly a miracle. Like, you are 1 in a million when it comes to the people that got lobbed into the fire and you somehow came out.
Yep, 100%.
Do you think that? Do you think there should be any changes or things you would like to see change when it comes to the way that the competitive community goes about accusing people or I guess, putting those accusations to rest? Because a lot of the time it can feel like a witch hunt that. I mean, I can't imagine how hard that is to have random people you don't know just slinging things at you, right? Because someone else said that you're a cheater. Is there anything you'd like to see change there?
Well, I would like to see probably like giving them the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? I hate that, like, once one pro says they're cheating, then 80% of the pros cheating. It says they cheating. But, like, you know, the certain pros like Aiden or Jukas, for example, that will like be like the devil's advocate and like just, you know, just have their back and, you know, just see like from both point of views. You know what I mean? Not just keep bashing the kid's name because he's trying to come up too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough scene to kind of make a name in, and you're able to do that. I think you're one of the only that I can think off the top of my head that really made their name almost only and entirely in Caldera, at least public facing. Like, obviously you were grinding and getting better in Verdansk, but public facing wise, Caldera has been everything. So before we move to World Series of Warzone, that's where we're going next, and you can talk about your teammates during this conversation. Talk to me about Caldera. Is there a reason Caldera kind of propped you up for success? Is there something about the map that you like, or is it just, hey, everything fell into place and I got to a point where it's like, boom, now I can execute?
Well, Caldera, we all started at the same time. I jumped in Verdansk like probably a couple seasons in.
Yeah.
But Caldera, everybody started at the season one.
True, yeah.
Right. It's a different map though. I'll give it to you. It's way different than all the buildings in Verdansk. It's more open field. But if you just grind the map and you use more deployable covers, more cover, then you're fine. You'll still reap in this map.
Wait, do you think you adapted better than some folks who maybe started season one very beginning of Verdansk, since you said you came in a few seasons in?
Yeah, I mean, I adapt better because, like, off stream, what you guys don't see me doing is putting the work in. I just watch VODs, I practice, I play pubs off stream, I figure out new tricks. I mean, I learned that from Wallman, man, the top one earner right now. So, but yeah, that's just about, if you want to get better, go get it. You know what I mean? Do everything you can.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about putting the time in, right? Like, I mean, you're playing every single tournament that's possible. And you canceled a tournament to be on this podcast. That's a huge deal for us. So you're really appreciated.
Yeah.
It means a lot. But you, of all people, I said this before the podcast got started, and I'll say it again. You have more Caldera podium finishes than anyone, period, end of sentence, when you start calculating everything that you've been playing, because you play everything and you win a lot. So at least podium a lot. So is it just, hey, I want to put the time in, I want to be the best, so I'm going to play every tourney I can? Or is it, hey, I'm going to use these small tournaments as practice? Like, talk to me about your mentality when it comes to tourneys.
Well, yeah, like, I'm still young, you know what I mean? I'm still like I'm not even like on that pro status level yet, but like, even when it was like a $500, $300, $800, like, you know what I mean, prize pool, it's just, I want to play because I remember when I used to play these CMG dollar wagers. And now look at me, you know what I mean? I don't care. I know where I came from. So I'm just going to keep grinding, figure out new tricks, build new chem with Mayapple or Skull in these little tourneys where people don't see us playing. And we're gonna show out in the big tourneys. So that's pretty much it.
That's exactly what you did. Speaking of showing out in the big tournaments, World Series of Warzone, the NA qual, you took it away by leaps and bounds yesterday with Skullface and Mayappo, who you just mentioned, and GOJJ got to cast that. He got to watch all of that action happen. So GOJJ, you're going to have kind of a better perspective on it than I do, but I cannot wait to dig into this.
Yeah, I mean, World Series of Warzone, let's go ahead and jump into it. You've got Skullface. You've been playing with Skullface for a long time, right? And you guys guys are fantastic, Kim. You throw in Mayapo into the mix, who's arguably one of the best players on the map in general, put up just obscene numbers. You have this kind of like stereotype in Caldera of being a high slayer, kind of highly aggressive, but you play IGL for this team, and Mayapo can have the opportunity to be the slayer, and you get to hang back a little bit. So talk to me about your team, Kim, and what kind of works so well for this trio.
I mean, with this trio is like, what School said yesterday. Like, we could be aggressive or we could be passive, and that's just, we're all playmakers. And I don't need to be the slayer anymore. I could just be the IGL, or you know what I mean, call some shots and just be the main AR and look over Mayapo while he goes crazy and Skull's in the back sniping somewhere. So.
Is this one of the first times that you did take on a more direct IGL role in a team? Because we know your ability and capacity to slay out and take over in a map, especially in a lot of the 2v2s we've seen you in. So was that a new thing for you, or had you kind of already been dipping your toes into a larger role in a team like IGLing?
This was kind of like a new role for me. I think like Juki's kind of showed me that I could IGL. Like back when I played with him, like I was a slayer too, but like he showed me like I call good plays and stuff. So like with this team, I knew like if I could just IGL this team, then we'll be fine. Miapo's gonna kill her. I know like they call good plays too. Don't get me wrong. I'm like the main IGL, but like they call shots too. Like that's how a good team works. If everyone calls plays and you figure out what the best play is.
Yeah, I want to continue to break down World Series of Warzone. Obviously, you guys did fantastic. You ended up winning the qualifiers with a banger last map. Just a monster last map. I think it was a total of 28 eliminations with a 2x multiplier on the last map. I mean, it was stupid. 56. The second highest was 54, which was 4 in JC's squad, which was the jailbreak map. So a little bit of help there from that one. And then the third highest was actually from the EU qualifier. It was 52.5 from Azen and Bernie and them. But so a humongous map. I mean, what went right in that map in particular to get you guys so many eliminations? You guys just full sin because you got load out early?
I mean, I don't want to give out too many tricks on the podcast, but just comes down to, you know, having good position and, you know, choosing what teams to fight and what teams not to fight. That's about it.
Okay.
How much practice with that did you get in beforehand? Because obviously you can't let all your secrets out. You still got some finals to go on and win.
Yeah.
But how much practice did you guys do as a team, or strategizing, if you will? Because you mentioned what teams to avoid before the quals actually happened.
Well, we had like a ton of practice. Like for the qualifiers, TKI, we have practice in there. I know it's just pubs, but just that cam, and also like off stream we'll play pubs, and then we played a couple customs we won. So it was a lot of practice. You know, seeing how we work up close. I think that's our biggest thing we worked on, was like, how can we do in like a 3v3? Like, can we bait and switch? Can we trade out? And I think we did fine.
What were comms like in that regard? Because something interesting that Rated had mentioned to us a couple podcasts ago was that he sees, and I would say that we as casters do as well when we do listen-ins, a distinct difference sometimes in the quality of comms from retired professional players and just born and bred Warzone players. So how did you feel like your guys' comms were? Do you feel like there's things you want to work on? And maybe in those close quarter situations you were just talking about, how important were your comms to your success?
Comms are everything on this map, or with the team, I should say. I'd say our comms are fine. Like, Mayapo's usually like a quiet player, you know. I talk a lot, so like it works. You know what I mean? He's quiet. I talk a lot. Skull's like, you know, in the middle, he could talk or be quiet. But I mean, just having great comms, like I have your cross, or you know what I mean, I have your OE. It's like, you know, if they come out, they chase you, I got your OE, like just shit like that. He's 1E. Like it's simple stuff. Like, but like there's certain, I know what Rated meant by that. There's certain Warzone players that just panic, give crazy comms, try to do crazy movement when it's not just all about that in Call of Duty.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know you can't give out strategy here, so I'm not gonna really hammer down on your strats going into the finals. You've got, you know, the finals is coming, and this is kind of the main event. Like, honestly, I think I said it on broadcast about another team. It was either you guys or if it was about Foreign Jason them. I said I would eat a shoe if you didn't qualify. Like, even on a bad day, you're qualifying, right? Like, there's no question in my mind. But the finals is a whole different animal. So we don't need to talk about your strat going into the finals, but is there a certain couple teams that you know of that are playing, or maybe just players that you're like, hey, those are going to be some of our main competition. We need to watch out for those teams because of the way they play and the way they will kind of combat our strats. Is there any like specific items like that, or is it just kind of like we're going to focus on us?
Well, yeah, for sure. Like TB, you gotta give your respect to the goats. Come on now, top 3 right now, right?
Sure.
And Joe, Brandman, and Fief, right?
Yeah.
They've been winning a lot in the past recent. I know they're coming to bring their game, but you know we've been watching VODs. I know they probably watch our VODs. That's fine, but we got some stuff we cooked up for them.
You put your VODs on sub only, just make them pay for it, right?
You could.
I could.
No bullshit. You could. I know when John does S&D 8s during the season, he specifically switched his VODs to sub only, and he said the amount of people who will come in and sub purely just to get to the VODs. I'm saying, just throw those on.
Smart move right there. Smart move. Yeah.
Make TBE pay for it. You know they've got enough money to do it. No, that's awesome. Well, I'm really excited about the finals. Excited to watch kind of from afar to see what you guys are able to do. I think there's a lot of people that believe that you guys have a really good shot in making to the finals, and not only making to the finals, but doing well in the finals, podiuming in the finals. I know Dandro was basically saying at the end of it, the boy Dandro is always gassing you guys up from the desk. He was like, hey, this is my team to win the whole thing. Like, I believe in them.
That's my guy.
And so I know, like, I think one of the next questions I wanted to bring up was more so about this, like, ego mentality of, like, you have to have some sort of an ego in this scene, because, like, if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to? So talk to me about that. Like, you kind of are known to have a little bit of pep in your step. You bark at the end of the games. You got a little trash talk. It's a good thing.
It's washed, you know?
It's a good thing. Talk to me about the ego conversation and kind of your mentality when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I mean, what's Call of Duty without ego or like trash talk or friendly banter? That's Call of Duty. You know what I mean? What can I say? But I'm just a passionate player, and like when I win or like when people don't show me enough respect that I feel like I don't get enough respect, and I you know what I mean? I'm just gonna have to 2-0 you in a 2v2 or beat you in a trios custom. So like, so you can show me my respect and what you know what I mean? But it's all love. At the end of the day, it's like it's all love. It's not like nothing, like no hate or nothing. It's just friendly banter. Pretty much it.
I think it keeps things, as casters, spicy for us. We want to hear that. I loved when you stood up when we were doing that listen in, right as you won the 20K with Stu. When you started barking it, rated, I loved that. I thought it was fantastic. So I'm glad. I think that personality is so necessary in any sort of a competitive game, whether it's competitive Warzone or professional Call of Duty or whatever else it may be. People flock to personalities like yours that aren't afraid to say what you think and say what you mean and be loud about it. And a little bit wrapping back to the finals, I do want to know, talking about that big personality, say you win, what would a big win like that mean for you?
I feel like it would just put a stamp on Caldera. Like, you know what I mean? People call me the Caldera come up, and I feel like it'll put a stamp on me, Mayappa, and School as the underdogs. It's like an underdog story, like a Cinderella story. We came from the qualifiers, we got first in quals, first in custom quals, and we're trying to go first in the final event. And if we got that stamp, it's just like it's a big finish for the biggest tournament in Warzone for Caldera.
Yeah, there is some RNG in Warzone, but when you can go first, it's kind of that like, hey, I don't give a crap about your RNG. Like, we are one of the best trios in the game. Period.
That would be incredible.
And there are people that are saying that. There are people that are talking about you guys as up there, especially more recently. But this would be, I totally agree, a huge stamp on hey, yeah, sure, Caldera come up. Well, we're also the Caldera Kings because, we're up at the top with TBE in terms of what we can do as a team, customs 2v2s or otherwise. So really cool to hear. We're going to finish up here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've told your story. We've talked about World Series of Warzone. Maybe we'll have to bring you on in the future and talk more strategic stuff, because I love to hear the behind the scenes strategy. Totally understand you want to out yourself on broadcast here, but talk to me. We went through the whole story. There's a lot of other people that are trying to do what you just did. right? Of come up through the scene, grow, start earning money in tourneys, make a name for yourself, be known by the big players, and be a threat to the big players. And they haven't been able to do it yet. What is your advice to those people that are trying to come up in the scene?
Well, I can say just keep your head down and keep grinding, but at the same time, make sure you start networking. You know what I mean? Make a name for yourself. Show people who you are. Be humble. You know what I mean? Show them where you come from. Show them what you're about. You know what I mean? There's more than just this game. Show why you play and compete. Pretty much it.
I love that answer. I think that anytime someone, I'm never surprised to see the people who have the come up that Hisoka has when they mention, when we ask that question, networking and how important it is. So good on you to be aware. It can be so crucial to getting you those opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, I want to know what is next. Do you have content plans? What can we expect to see from you in the months ahead?
Definitely content. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I got so lost in making a name for myself, competing, because I'm a competitor. Even with sports before esports, I've always been a competitor at heart. So I perfected my craft so much. I think it's time I start working toward the content side in Warzone 2, and that's the next step, the next phase for me to grow.
Yeah, I like that. Warzone 2 is going to be big for a lot of people. You know, Katie and I are also really excited about Warzone 2, and I think the excitement we all have needs to be fueled into the passion and fueled into the drive to actually put some things out there, right? And I think the thing I always say to Warzone competitors, hey, your content is competing, but how can you use that competitive content to your advantage on other, social media assets like YouTube or like TikTok or like whatever to continue to grow your brand? Because eventually you got to get to a point where it's not just competing if you really want to get to that next level. And I think you're right on that precipice of hey, we can start slinging some content. And I know you're already talking to people about that. You got people that are even more informed than I am telling you the same. And I'm really, really excited to see your come up in Warzone 2.
Yes, sir.
Well, hey, that's all we got today. You kind of broke it all down for us. We really appreciate you telling your story. I will say to finish this thing off, happy to give you the floor to say anything you would like to say, whether it's a final parting word to the fans, a thank you to somebody else, or a call out on somebody you're going to beat down next week. Whatever you want to say, the floor is yours before we send you on your way.
Before I go, just, Misko Mialpa, man, that's the team to look out for. And in Warzone 2, I hopefully we get more opportunities in the next Warzone. Because if we do, I'll tell you right now, all three of us will be in the top 5, top 10 earnings.
I love that from you. I love that from you, brother. Well, hey, really appreciate your flexibility and coming on here. And again, huge congratulations on your success. Open calls, closed calls, customs, pubs, doesn't matter. You guys are winning. Keep up that energy and go into next week just ready to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. Thank you, GOJJ. I had a pleasure. Katie, I had a pleasure as well.
Awesome. Best of luck in the finals. I can't wait to see what you guys do.
All right. See you guys later.
Yeah. Peace, brother. All right, folks. Well, hey, Hisoka, done and dusted, an incredible guest. Super fun to hear kind of his story throughout this whole thing. We appreciate him and, of course, his family support on everything we do. You guys have been amazing.
So wholesome. Oh, yeah. Every time I see Mama Hisoka anywhere, I'm like, this is just, it makes me happy.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And shout out to Skullface and Mayapo. Speaking of Skullface and Mayapo, we are still incredibly sponsored by Kolosseum Stat Chat. And today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different with the stat chat. We're talking through World Series of Warzone stats, which is awesome. So if you don't know, Kolosseum is a Warzone fantasy website where you can go compete in these Warzone fantasy contests, draft your team with a salary, put together your team, and then you can win free money, which is actually insane. And so they put together some stats for us. You can type !sponsor to pull up Kolosseum. It's kolosseum.co. But they put together some stats for us. So let me pull this up. Let me make sure it's all good and dandy and ready to rock and roll. I think I've got it set up. No. Okay, oh yeah, there we go. Boom. Look at this. Okay, so we had the chance, and I'm going to zoom you out a little bit. And again, shout out.
No, it's perfect. Look, you cut off my 5 head. I now have like a 2 head. That's fine.
You're so dumb. You'll be slightly larger than me for this, I think, but it'll be fine. Okay. So, for the Kolosseum stat chat, they put together stats from the tournament itself, because technically it was played in what's called whitelisted lobbies. Now, it's not weird whitelisting where some people get special treatment. It's literally just playing in the public playlist, but everybody from the tournament are playing together. So it's customs, but it's the public game, because customs in the public game are slightly different. The loadout times, the map changes, and things like that are different in customs than the actual traditional map. And so when you start looking at some of these stats, it's super cool. So let's look over it. This is from the tournament itself. Mayapo shot at a 6 KD during the tournament. 5 games of Warzone shot at a 6 KD. Stupid. Skullface at a 4.6 on the same team, by the way. Hisoka was their third. 4 and Jace was the team that got second at a 3.7. Shout out Tyronix, my boy, at a 3.5. And then Shaded Step, who was in the Twitter chat just a second ago, Shaded Step was at a 2.9. Played fantastic as well.
That's all.
Great KDs and customs.
The custom part is what makes this so impressive, right? A 6.0 from Mayapo is that's not just good. That is unbelievably good for the caliber. You're not playing against some random lobby of people who don't know that they're competing against you. You are playing against other people who are going 100% to try and qualify for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the fact that you are playing that caliber and still putting up 6.0, that it's filthy. It's just, it's legitimately disgusting, Katie, to be able to tout.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, let's keep going through these. Katie, impressive. Let's talk about individual kill leaders. Now, this was the thing that I tweeted about that is just obscene, okay? Let's look at the top. The top 2 Slayers were on the same team. I mean, we've got IGL Hisoka taking a backseat role trying to lead the charge here, and then he's got 2 Slayers who go number 1 and number 2 overall in the whole tournament. Mayapo had 45 eliminations in 5 games in customs. Now, Katie, we looked at the scoreboard, okay? The relegation point, the team that got 20th was Bartonologist's squad. They snuck in there and qualified for the finals. Their total score, placements included, which was a 1.5 times multiplier if you got top 15, 2 times if you win, their total score, 48 points. Mayapo by himself, without zero, with zero point multipliers or anything, almost qualified as an individual. Absolutely stupid. Like, just busted. I was blown away looking at some of these stat lines of how many eliminations they got in customs, and that's just a testament to how locked in they were on tourney day.
And that's just pure domination. There's no other way to describe it, and you can do nothing except tip your hat to it.
Right, and when you looked at the leaderboard, these kill totals made total sense. Exact4 and Jace also on the same squad. They were the team that got second, so when you look at the top 6, it looks like kill leaders, you know, 4 of the 6 are separated between 2 teams. That's just dumb, right? And there were 2 teams that really dominated the competition. Everybody else kind of followed in their footsteps, which honestly was to be expected to some degree, because those 2 trios were the top 2 earned, the top 2 most podiums. You know, really were like a, hey, we're gonna prove why we should have been invited, rather than, of course, having to go through quals. So shout out to them. And then let's take a look at our over unders now. Had some stats behind the scenes, of course, on our over unders. Katie and I went over under last time, and I've caught up. I've caught up almost. I am 1 point behind Katie on our over unders. You and I did pretty much the exact same. You and I both went over on most kills per game last time, and it was an under, so no points to either of us. You and I both went over last time on most kills in 1 week at 2,000, and we both got that correct. And then we both went over on the time played, which was way over. So we both got those points. But it was the most victories where I closed the gap. It was an 86 was the over-under point. You went over and I went under, and it was 80. So I got that point, sort of closing the gap there. Here's our over-unders for this week. We got World Series of Warzone, so people are grinding. And it's also a new season, so let's keep that into account as we finish out our over-unders for this week, Katie. 50, most kills per game. Average was 48, I think, last week. So this is most kills per game. This is actually the single match, the highest. Over under 50. What are you going with?
Over.
Over. Going over on 50. I will also say over. I'm going to follow your footsteps there because I think
50's too low. 50's too low.
I think somebody's going to drop a 51, a 52 in Caldera this week. They're prepping, right? They're prepping for World Series of Warzone. Well, they're prepping for World... I'm going to go under. I'm changing my mind. They're prepping for World Series of Warzone. They're going to play slow. They're going to play more strategic. They're going to be sniping. I'm going under. Okay, anyways, continuing. Most kills in 1 week. This is between all of the matches. Average has been about 2,000. 2.2 over under.
Well, by your logic in the first question, we both have to go under on this.
We don't have to. You can do whatever you want, Katie.
You make no sense if you say over on this, but under on the first one.
What are you saying?
I'm going to say under.
I'm saying over.
That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? You cannot say that most kills is going to be under 50 because people are going to be saying, playing slower. I can't talk because I'm so enraged.
How many?
Most kills in 1 week. You can't say it's over then. That makes no sense.
Or how many people are playing? The top players are playing for World Series of Warzone, but the general public isn't. So they're still going to be slaying out because it's a new season. So that's why I went over. 5 head. Okay, highest average kills. This is between all matches. The average kills 16, and we're going over under 19 on this one. 19. What are you thinking?
Average. Oh, average kills.
This is between all, highest average. So this is between all of their games. Whoever was the highest, all of their games for the entire this next week combined. Average over under 16. This is a tough one. Yeah.
Oh wait, over under 19.
19.
Right,
Yeah.
That's actually really hard.
I know it is.
Fuck. Sorry, Lamberto, please scrub that. I'm gonna go under.
Under. Okay, I will also go under there. I think that's gonna be a really tough stat. People are gonna chalk lobbies. All right, final stat, and then we'll move on. Most victories, 85, and this is between all matches. 85 wins in a week is steep. What are you going?
I'm gonna say over because by your logic, if people are playing slower, if they're playing more toward wins with kills and those multipliers you get therein, I'm going to say over on victories.
I'm going to follow your lead. Yeah, I'm going over. You're right.
I was wanting to get so...
I'm going over. That's our Kolosseum stat chat. We've done our over-unders. We appreciate you guys. Yeah, please go check out Kolosseum. They're the reason we were able to do this podcast. They support us in so many ways. And also, it's Friday Freebie going on right now. First place, there's $150 on the line for free, and it takes like 5 minutes to build out your team. Super cool. They give you a salary cap, and you can pick all of your different Warzone players. And when your favorite Warzone streamers win, you get to win free money, right? The prize pools this week is $150, I believe. We got $50 for first place. So you go in, build your team out. If you get lucky, or maybe you're super strategic, $50 straight up through PayPal. Got you. Done and dusted.
We've had people in chat who have won.
Exactly. Second place, 40. Third place, 30. Fourth place, 20. And fifth place, 10. So even if you get fifth place, you're still walking away with free money. Friday freebies. And you can also use promo code BOTLOBBY for some extra cash your direction for some of the non-free tourneys that you can enter in with your fantasy squad. So if you like fantasy sports, you like fantasy esports, go check out Kolosseum. They're awesome, and they've been a great partner with us. So that's our stat chat for the week. Let's head back over here, Katie, because we still have a lot to talk about on this podcast. We wanted to do this podcast as like a post-World Series of Warzone, but then there was just a ton that has been thrown our direction in the last like week and a half or so. And we've got to start with kind of the main stage one that everyone's been talking about. It's the 1v1s, right? It's the CDL versus Warzone debate. We've already brought this up on the podcast, but the last week have been nonstop 1v1s and surprising results. To be very clear, it's been Biffle carrying the Warzone scene on his back with a little bit of help. A little bit of help with Aiden. Aiden did well. Aiden ended up beating Sib in a 1v1.
And
in a Vanguard.
they've been chirping at each other initially in the drama, right? With Sib basically saying Aiden's insane for saying, you know, that you could be a pro, whatever. So I loved in particular seeing that matchup. But GOJJ, did you have a favorite matchup of all the people who participated?
Oh, by far, it was kind of the OG battle, which was Biffle versus Zinni, Biffle versus Methods. This was a fun one. There was a lot of trash talk going, and this is before any like big matchups had happened yet. So it was like the beginning, and it was like people were like, okay, like ain't no way. Some people were like, oh, Biffle's the goat, Biffle's the goat, but they were like, okay, actually though, like we're playing Vanguard, a title that these CDL players have been playing all the time, and it's a 1v1. So 1v1s are a little cheese because they're playing 1v1 radar on the entire time. So
I know. Well, radar on was a point of contention too. I think even Scum tweeted about it. But like, let's be clear, guys. Radar on makes a difference, and anyone who says it doesn't, like, you're just insane.
Because it comes down to, you know, it comes down to more about like what's your gunning like, and then you can also like pre-fire corners. So there's a little bit of cheese, but it's the best way to do it, because if you put, you know, these Warzone players on a map that they've never played or they haven't played hardly at all, it doesn't make a lot of sense to just get beaten by map knowledge. That's dumb. When you're trying to test like actual skill, it's like, okay, let's roll with it, right? And anyways, they go back to back. So if you guys don't know, Methods is an AR player for Boston Breach, and they play MP40 first, and MP40 goes fairly well in both of their favors. They both played very well. Zenny actually comes out on top. Now, they were also playing for host, because ping is a huge deal. 1v1 Vanguard, the TTK is crazy fast, right? And so host is everything for these things. So they're playing for host. Zenny starts on his host. And what they did was the classic way to determine host is how many kills did you get on the other person's host. Whoever got the most on the other person's host hosts the third game if it goes to the third game, because it was a best of 3. Zenny wins MP40. They go to AR, and they played Automaton, which is what he uses, and it was on Biffle's host. Biffle obliterated him. It was like 30-20. Like, it wasn't close. He was gunning him down. I think the first MP40 game on Zenny's host was like 30-24, 25 or something like that. But it was 30-20. So Biffle then gets host on the last one. They're on Dome. It's MP40, and they play it again, and Biff ends up winning. So that was like the first big, like, Biffle's got it in the bag, right? And they play a couple more, and there's some back and forth. I think Zuma ends up beating Biffle on a one map, you know, straight up on Zuma's host, and obviously host comes down to it. And then Aiden beating Sib. It was this like really fun back and forth where it's like, hey, this is content, Katie, but it's also like everybody's starting to say, okay, the Biffle kid, he's good. He's good, okay? He's good.
And that's what I said, right? And I will say it again. There is a massive difference between competitive Warzone players and professional CDL players. By and large, the only Warzone specific person that I have absolute confidence has the talent and the skill set to get through challengers onto a pro team would be Biffle. He's the only single person I would say that about.
Yeah.
You can see it. I know Crowder has echoed that same sentiment. You can see it in his gameplay. There is something different about him, and that was showcased. My favorite of kind of all of those was Celium and Biffle, because Celium is like, Celium's an alien. Like, when he is legitimately, you cannot understand how he plays, what he does. He is so beyond like the scope of our human understanding of Call of Duty. Celium is just different. He is disgustingly good at every Call of Duty he plays. And so getting to watch Celium and Biffle play against each other was really a treat for me, because they're both just raw talent wise so good compared to a lot of other people. But at the end of the day, I just look at Biffle and I'm like, I don't know if he has any interest in competing, but wow, it would be cool to watch him say, you know what, I'm gonna do Warzone until maybe I can get picked up by someone. But at the same time, I don't know if he could really juggle those, because if you're actually trying to go pro and that's a route you want to do, Rated said it, that is 100% of your life is doing that. So I don't know if he cares about it at all, but Biffle is just different.
Yeah, to be clear on that, to finish the conversation out, they played Vanguard. The same rules applied. Celium took him 2-0. There was a couple close maps there, but it was 2-0 in the final bout on Vanguard. They swapped over to Modern Warfare Speedball. And
that's Biffle's map.
Biff 2-0'd him on Speedball because, hey, it's closer probably to the Warzone engine, and he's played a ton of Speedball. So, yeah, pretty fun, back and forth, really good content, and really, you know, ecstatic that this has been something they've been doing in the offseason. It's kind of revitalized people to continue to look at these different players. And it all stemmed from Repulse, by the way. Hector, who's been, you know, he's the hype man of all hype mans. He posted a copy pasta. Like, that started the whole back and forth of the 1v1s, and then it just blew up, which was super cool to see. So that was the first topic we needed to talk about. The next one is super interesting. Katie, I'll kind of let you take this one away while I pull up a few more notes.
Yeah, so we've had some announcements about some all-female World Series of Warzone teams that will be in the final. And Swish announced and said that she will be playing alongside Queen Shadows, which is her very long-time duo, and Ken's. Ken's, who we've had on the podcast, as well as Swish. I consider Ken's, if not one of the best female Warzone player right now. But you don't see her playing very often with Swish and Queen. So I actually am very excited to see how that team synergizes and works together for the final. But there was also an announcement out of Toronto, and that is Overgirl's team. And it is Overgirl, Queen Biddy, and Winterella's. And both of those teams, I love to see them in the final because I'm very curious to see how they compete with everyone else in the tournament. I do know that if you could give me a little information on this. You said there was an all-female team in the NA qual that unfortunately didn't perform very well, but on paper I would have expected them to perform a bit better, unfortunately. But
yeah, there were 4 women that even played in the quals from what I know. Smixy didn't make it through the open quals by a couple places, and then it was Pinkify, Selly, and Uncivil Queen that made it into the closed quals, which is the customs. And unfortunately, I don't know what the breakdown was, but they had a tough day and didn't qualify through. So then we have our 2 teams that you just mentioned that are kind of like invited to the finals and will be making an appearance there.
Well, Goj, this got me thinking. I was telling you it was my shower thought today, and I don't know why this didn't enter into my brain at some other point. But I was sitting there, and I just had this moment. Is there another, and anyone in chat, if you know this, please let me know, because I am asking this genuinely.
Sure.
Is there another competitive game, and I am separating out competitive Warzone and esports, but whether it's esports, whether it's a competitive aspect of a game, that has as many women competing at a top level with men as Warzone does right now? Because there are a lot of women at the top level in the top tournaments who place really well, who podium, who win. And it led me to looking at the World Series of Warzone finals, and I can't speak for Activision. I do not know what they plan to do. I know that a lot of the time with stuff like this, they don't have it necessarily from a competitive eye so much as like content. But it seems like there is this opportunity within Warzone, if they did choose to go into a more professional direction or ranked or something more structured competitively, that you already have a league that would have women at the upper echelons. And I just don't think you see that elsewhere. You have game changers with Valorant. I know that you have CSGO recently announced like a large prize pool for women's tournaments, but those are like female only, or
right.
I think at least game changers is not female only. But I look at that and I'm like, that would be such an amazing spotlight to shine on women in this scene and women in competitive gaming in general, because it has been a struggle for a really long time, and I think will continue to be a struggle. But the idea that Warzone could be one of those first games that just natively already has that female talent at the top, that was my shower thought ramble. I don't know if they care to go in that direction, but it seems like a really cool opportunity to explore.
No, yeah, there's a ton of fantastic women in the competitive scene, whether the ones that we've named or others. I mean, you know, somebody that kind of moving topics to one of our final topics for today, Nadia. She has been on that grind recently with her stream. Thousands of people tuning in, content exploding, and there's been some negative blowback from that with a lot of people accusations against her, you know, BBB and some others that I don't really want to name by their actual name because they're the worst type of people making content around, you know, accusations around every single streamer imaginable. She's on that list, and it's been a huge issue because she gets a ton of harassment from it, which is so frustrating to see. But she has had a come up in content and has really been killing it on the, I think it's number 6 overall watched Warzone period this last month. I mean, massive explosion. And it's like, hey, content, you know, there's others like Jesse Cooks and you know, others that we're not mentioning that are killing it in the content scene, that are amazing women in Warzone, and would love to be able to kind of like continue to promote them not only through competition but also content if Warzone 2 picks up some sort of a league or something like that. So I love that, Katie, and I think we've got the women casters as well. Like we've got yourself, we've got Tiff, we've got Dream Crazy, and we've got others. I know Cash is another, but that could be in that scene as well, and you could really see a whole level of women competitors make a rise in Warzone if there was a league that, like you said, not a lot of other games have. Which is super cool. I love that you brought that up. Well, one other final topic I have that was DM'd to me during our podcast today. If you didn't know, Collegiate Warzone, CCL, College Call of Duty League is a thing. But the College Warzone League has recently been started up, and unfortunately, customs are no longer a part of our game right now. The customs UI has been shut down because there was a lot of bugs with it, and so their original game plan was running through a bunch of customs as a part of their qualifying series for their final kind of championship with all of these college teams, and they've had to change their entire format to a time kill race, which is obviously a point of contention. Not a lot of people love the time kill race for like a true competitive mode because, hey, there's things about SBMM and different ways that people quote unquote exploit SBMM or just host advantages in general, and obviously issues with that. But something worth noting from the College Warzone scene as a point of information, just because it's going to change up dramatically. You know, some teams are better at customs than they are at time kill races, and when you're expecting a certain format and have to pivot on the fly, the question that I have is, of course, who's able to do that the best, and who can fry out in pubs when they originally kind of built their team around a customs format.
And I just love seeing Collegiate CoD do this in general with Warzone. I have worked some of their College CoD broadcasts before. Everyone behind the scenes there puts blood, sweat, and tears and hours and hours and hours of time into making this possible. And I know they are with eFuse now, and they've continued to really build out this project. So to see them doing that with Warzone, it's only smiles. I love it. And I hope that it continues to grow from that.
Yeah, well, we've talked through a lot today. We talked through Hisoka's story and his come up, his insane success in World Series of Warzone, and really excited to see what happens in the World Series of Warzone finals, whether it's his squad coming out on top or podium finishing, or some of our stalwart trios like TBE or otherwise. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch from the sidelines and see kind of who comes out on top in a customs format like that against the best Warzone players, period, right? It's got everybody that you can think of, unless your favorite streamer didn't make it through quals and they had a struggle in that department. So excited to see what happens there, and then of course all the other things we talked about in our Shitters Digest section. And shout out again to Kolosseum for making this all possible with the Kolosseum stat chat. Really cool to walk through the statistics of the World Series of Warzone because it was in those kind of whitelisted lobbies. But hey, that's all we've got today, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Whether you came from Hisoka's stream and his community, or if you just follow the Bot Lobby podcast, you're watching on YouTube later down the road, we thank you for joining us, and we had a blast here. We'll finish it off quickly. Katie, anything you're working on, where can people find you?
Where can people find me? Well, first off, where people can find the VOD of this is going to be on our YouTube, guys. You can hit !podcast. So if you just got here, if you maybe missed out on what was going on with our interview with Hisoka, we will have the timestamped VOD up on YouTube. Make sure that you're subscribed there. I'm just living the dream. Just got back from Vegas, where I had 3 delays and then got to the airport, and then my flight got moved, and then I got home and I have no AC. So everything's awful and I'm dying. But other than that, you know, I'm good. I'm great.
Okay. Well, good to know. I'm Grandmaster GOJJ. GOJJ is what I go by pretty much everywhere. Been casting up a storm, got some things cooking behind the scenes. Keep an eye out on the finals of World Series of Warzone. I will not be casting it. You might see a very slight and small appearance from me. Who knows? You never know. Some things coming down the corner. But other than that, got some exciting things cooking up with Katie, and gonna keep cranking out the podcast. Check me out, Grandmaster GOJJ, on all major socials. But other than that, hey, thank you guys for the support of Bot Lobby Podcast. That's all we've had for today. Oh, last thing, if you're still listening, you get a sneak peek. We've got some new overlays that should be here by next episode, okay? So if you're waiting on the next one, if you heard the Hisoka story, you're like, I can't wait to see who you have on next. Well, don't worry, it's going to look even more beautiful. We're going to have animated overlays, a starting soon screen, all that good stuff that we've been wanting. So shout out to my boy Brave for cranking those out. They look sick. Anyways, that's all we got. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one.